That's just how they felt. That was a case of where the oppressors were feeling oppressed. That doesn't necessarily mean they were oppressed.
No, I see where you're coming from, because they put so much money, so much work into that land that they were
being oppressed by the oppressed, because they held each.
But
had
it wasn't
goals.
caused by the revolutionary leader. It was caused by the.
Well, his presidency enabled the Land Reform Act to be, in action. So people who bought land, who maybe people were born into that, they bought land there, saved enough money to buy land in South Africa, a piece of farmland, regardless of before it was taken by whites. They bought it, worked at it years. Then people who came out of nowhere who they don't know, claim it, take it away from him, and it doesn't have land anymore.
I saw the same point. I saw the same thing.
So
that was the ideal situation,
oppression.
but they weren't necessarily taking the land back. Like that, I get what you're saying. Like that makes sense, and that's what the white people were thinking was happening. But in reality, the blacks were never really getting their land back.
4% of them, at least. 4% of the lands.
4% is nothing compared to 90 something percent of the population not having land.
As he says, Dina says, it takes time.
But the thing about it,
revolution in 10 years.
The thing about it
takes.
I understand that.
I don't understand why we should decide who has the right to own land and who doesn't have the right to own land. Like land, I think is one of those huge topics where there's only so much land to go around, and we want complete equality. How are you to determine?
Well, see that whole movie was a sticky situation, because I can understand the indigenous people being like, hey, my great great grandmother was buried there, I can see them having that emotional claim to land. But then I can also see the white people who have, it wasn't their it was their ancestors,
some of them.
Yes, that was some of their ancestors that got the land, so why should they have to pay for what happened in history?
Yeah,
so I can see both sides. So that was a really sticky situation.
Honestly,
on how to deal
that
with
goes back to a lot of social justice issues about land in general, and whether or not land should be owned by anyone, or if it should be more of a communal thing.
That's hard though.
It's really hard to implement, especially.
Do you know what's really weird is you can own the land, but you can't necessarily own the mineral rights underneath the land. Sorry, I just know that.
I know.
Well, yeah, it's just like you can't own the water on your land.
I learned that when I worked.
You can own airspace though.
Well, okay, think about it. Let's say someone owns this plot of land right here, and then there's another plot of land right here, and there's this oil.
Yeah, that's what my paper was about.
So this guy discovers the oil, so he's getting all the profit, but there's oil under this guy's land, and he's taking it from the guy's land too. So
because oil is considered a mineral.
Exactly. So I don't understand the whole land property thing, property.
It's just emotional ties.
It's just one of those things where people feel like they have to.
We're not on topic anymore.
Yeah, we should probably just cut off the video.
Well, hold on.
Okay, sorry.
One other thing. And it's about the quote that you talked about on 133.
Open up.
Every approach to the oppressed by the elites as a class.
Exactly that one. Where it talks about false generosity. We talked about this before we started filming, and also last week, that it seems like even if the oppressors try to talk to the oppressed, that Freddie would just consider it false generosity, to where they wouldn't. He believes that they couldn't even exchange dialogue or anything like that, even if the oppressors tried. I don't agree with that either, but I think that he just too easily writes it off.
I think Ferris sees lots of things as black and white.
Yeah.
I don't think he sees any room for gray.
There's no gray. True. Well, he gives a lot of what critics would say, but mostly it's about there's a set of rules and this is how it is.
Well, maybe
that's how he was raised, and he's a really good example of what revolutionary grows up into. He started out in a nice thing, lost all of it, became one of the people, grew up in that, learned how to educate. So he exemplifies his own teachings.
Which I guess is a good thing. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It just seems very, very black and white.
I think he doesn't acknowledge that the oppressors can have dialogue with the oppressive because of his criteria that goes behind having dialogue. You have to have hope in order to have dialogue, right?
Right.
And so in the state that the oppressors are coming from, they have no reason to have hope.
Right.
Because he said that hope is not crossing your arms and waiting for something to happen. It's not.
Right.
You're
So
saying,
then why, but what reason would the oppressors want to talk to the oppressed, just to kind of see where they're coming from? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what reasons would the
Because
oppressors want to talk to
they
the oppressed?
talk loud enough for them to hear them. If you get enough people in poverty, and people are commenting, well, why there's so many people in poverty? The oppressors are gonna think, well, okay, people are starting to get unrestful, like, you
Are you
know,
saying-
restless. They're like, well, we gotta quell the situation somehow. Let's appear as though we're helping them out.
or you're saying that
Okay.
the illusion that the oppressors put onto the oppressed, like that there was a rift in it at some point. So when
So they gotta
It's
keep,
society.
they gotta
They have to-
constantly,
right,
you
they have
know,
to keep that illusion going.
they gotta keep like painting the picture. They can't just let it dry because it's gonna crack and then
They're-
you're gonna break through.
They're
I get that.
emphasizing reality,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's
Constantly.
why they can't.
It's not static. They constantly I think it's funny because they're constantly keeping the world static by, you know, even though it's changing, and then they just kind of put this roadblock. They gotta keep like cementing this roadblock upon it, like because they keep
The veil of ignorance
Ignorance.
to the oppressed. They keep it going.
Oh, I totally missed. All right. I feel good. I feel good.
Good job, guys.
All right, I'll upload it tomorrow.
Should we say our names?
No, I'll put who it's on. Ready?
Awesome. Go, God.